What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was the Allspark in Transformers Part 1. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Decepticons are coming, said an Autobot, missing his right arm as he attempted to use his weapon with his remaining arm. Hold your ground, another Autobot yelled. We must protect the Allspark. Before being shot in the head and falling to the ground with the rest of his kind. A fleet of fighter aircraft swooped down from the sky, unleashing missiles at various places along the front line, tearing the Autobots apart with each passing second of the conflict against the vast Decepticon army. Lord Megatron, Starscream remarked, bowing before his lord and watching the action from his spacecraft. The temple that houses the Allspark is completely surrounded. The Autobots can offer no real resistance to your army. Megatron stood with his hands behind his back, watching the carnage unfold. The once beautiful scenery had been converted into a terrible wasteland. His trusty lieutenant, Soundwave, waited calmly at his side, retaining his enigmatic demeanor and ready to provide his boss any assistance he may require. Megatron turned to face his faithful warriors, who were following him with immense trust. With the Allspark, we can finally abolish the caste system and make Cybertron an equal society for everyone. Join me and you will experience the world we have always fantasized about. Long live Megatron! Long live Megatron! The joyful Decepticons chanted together, hoping that the oppressive governance of Cybertron would come to an end. Megatron lifted his arm in a warlike gesture. Decepticons, transform and rise up. With his war cry, all of the Decepticons converted into their aerial battle forms and rained fire from the skies, annihilating any Autobot resistance. While the outside of the temple was the site of a massive one-sided carnage, the Autobots within were frightened and scared for their lives, but they all understood that if it was for the sake of the Allspark, their lives would be used as a barrier to defend it. The Autobot resistance was feeble, but that didn't mean they were willing to give up, not as long as the freshly appointed Optimus Prime, Cybertron's first prime in decades, could battle and led them to triumph against Megatron's violent revolution. Optimus, what are we going to do? Questioned Bumblebee, a youthful and inexperienced Cybertronian. It will be impossible to protect the Allspark at this rate. Optimus Prime, originally Orion Pax, stared at his buddy before focusing on a small golden icosahedron-shaped item hovering in an empty area in the temple's center. Bumblebee, it will be impossible to fight Megatron if we worry about the safety of the Allspark. Optimus Prime remarked, fearful of his impending destiny and decision. The power of the Allspark cannot be used by the Decepticons or the Autobots, so much power can corrupt its users. So what do we do? What should we do if we are unable to harness its strength to win the war? Bumblebee inquired, his ears ringing from the temple's blasts. We will isolate the Allspark from Cybertron. Optimus Prime replied, not totally sure of his strategy. If anything bad happens to it, it will be impossible to undo the damage from this battle. Where are we going to send it? Bumblebee inquired, understanding his leader's rationale. I don't know, Bumblebee, but any place away from Megatron's hands is good enough, even if it takes us hundreds of years to find him again. Optimus Prime murmured, coming closer to a breach through which he could observe the city's wreckage. We're going to transport the Allspark to the portal network, we're going to launch it directly into space. Optimus Prime clenched his big metal fists in despair, knowing that transferring the Allspark to the space portal network would practically kill countless Autobots and companions. Autobots, today we must risk our lives for the greater good, we must ensure that Megatron does not touch the Allspark. Even if our sparks are extinguished, we will fight to the end. Optimus Prime extended his arm with an outstretched hand, waiting for the Allspark to gently approach. For future generations, for a better future, for the Allspark, Autobots transform roll out. Optimus Prime, in vehicle form, was accompanied by scores of Autobots who valiantly resisted the Decepticons. Unfortunately, the Decepticons' air power proved to be an incredibly difficult challenge to overcome. Megatron, Starscream, and Soundwave invaded the temple where the Allspark lived, and the three major Decepticons quickly defeated the Autobots who acted as a distraction, utilizing violence in ways they couldn't explain. Those damn Autobots, Starscream muttered, kicking the body of an Autobot with energon seeping from its wounds. But it doesn't matter, we'll finally get the Allspark. Megatron scowled, his crimson eyes scouring the area for an ambush. It's too easy. Megatron spoke suspiciously, unlocking the doors that would disclose the Allspark. Starscream's eyes and lips opened in disbelief. The Allspark, where is it? Optimus must have taken it somewhere, but it doesn't matter, we'll get it back sooner or later. Megatron was in no haste to capture the Allspark's power, knowing that Optimus Prime, or rather Orion Pax, would never use it for personal gain. There is no place on Cybertron where Optimus Prime can hide the Allspark from me. Lord Megatron, a Decepticon spoke over the radio. I'm listening. Megatron responded to the radio signal. Optimus Prime and his Autobots transport the Allspark to the portal network. We're attempting to stop them, but the Autobots' resistance is getting stronger, said the Decepticon, disappointed with his failure to halt the Autobots' approach. Megatron's eyes exhibited amazement and anxiety, as Starscream and Soundwave observed. That's bastard. Optimus intends to isolate the Allspark from Cybertron. Megatron dashed out of the temple, transforming into his flying vehicle. All Decepticons kill Optimus Prime. Do not allow him to isolate the Allspark from Cybertron. Megatron announced in a broadcast to his whole army. The Autobot resistance provided the greatest help they could, with many dying from energon blasts, dismemberment, or other heinous acts to save the portal network from being destroyed. Optimus Prime was to activate the space bridge using the implanted coordinates in a direction light years from Cybertron. Optimus, the Decepticons will destroy this place at this rate. Bumblebee issued a warning, firing his forearm guns at the flying Decepticons. We only need a single second. Optimus Prime spoke as the Allspark floated near him. The seconds of sheer destruction transformed to delight as the unique gateway was activated, leaving the Autobots optimistic about completing their objective, while the Decepticons were frantic and irresponsible, knowing they may fail in Megatron's name. Optimus Prime clutched the Allspark in his hands, looking at the source of infinite power with hesitation in his blue eyes, wondering if he should use it to defeat Megatron and his army. Optimus Prime shook his head, refusing to be lured by a strength he did not possess. Before Optimus Prime could toss the Allspark into the space vortex, red energon blasts hit it, causing an explosion and the gateway to gradually lose stability. When Optimus recovered consciousness, he noticed Megatron going toward the Allspark, which was hovering a few feet from him. I confess I never thought you would have the audacity to isolate the Allspark from our planet, Megatron said, drawing his retractable sword and preparing to kill Optimus. You have failed me, Optimus. You should never have accepted to be a Prime. Before Megatron could murder Optimus Prime, Bumblebee kicked him in the rear with both feet, throwing him off balance. Seeing the opportunity Bumblebee had made, Optimus sprang up and seized the Allspark. For Cybertron, Optimus roared in a warlike tone, flinging the Allspark into the portal just as it was ready to close. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the sight in slow motion, as if the conflict had vanished for a time, until they witnessed the source of their existence being swallowed by the space gate. No! Megatron yelled, his emotions bursting in wild wrath as he charged toward Optimus Prime, preparing to tear his head apart. However, Bumblebee appeared to halt his advance, releasing scores of energon blasts in rapid succession. The strength differential was evident, however, as Megatron grabbed him by the neck and strangled him, breaking his voice box and tossing him against the wall. Optimus regains his calm and morphs his forearm into a sword, narrowly deflecting Megatron's assault. Damn it, Optimus! You have doomed Cybertron! Megatron yells, his crimson eyes expressing his fervent wrath. Even if I am condemned, it is my duty as Prime to keep the Allspark out of your hands, Megatron. Optimus exclaimed, battling against the physical might of the man he had once called brother. At an unrecorded time in cosmic history, the Allspark moved through space, hovering, destined to be grabbed by the gravitational pull of a celestial body like a planet or star. While the mother planet from which its strength had fostered life for millions of years was being destroyed, a vision that contradicted its history and heritage emerged. Days, months, years, decades, Hundreds and thousands of years passed through the cosmos in a repetitive manner, accompanied solely by the universe's terrible quiet. The Allspark was then going to collide with a planet, be swallowed up by gravity forces, and have its metallic shell cooked at the entry to the atmosphere. In an unknown location, a tribe of a species called Homo sapiens, which arose 10,000 years ago, sat around a fire in a cave, some adults eating meat, some children playing among themselves, and the moms caring for the youngest. A little youngster with black hair and blue eyes sat on a limb, holding a small bone in his tiny hands and staring up at the sky, wondering what the lights in the night were about. An adult approached with a stone-tipped spear and violently ordered that he return to the cave. The little kid nodded his head, looking a bit uncomfortable, and made some sounds with his mouth, almost like he was trying to communicate in his own way. Just as he was about to climb down from the tree, he noticed the dark night suddenly lit up by a bright white light. A blue trail streaked across the sky, and it scared him, along with the adults and the animals around him. The kid spotted a fireball crashing down on a mountain, leading to a massive explosion and an earthquake that rattled the forest, making all sorts of animals scream in fear. That night, everyone in the tribe was wide awake, scared of what was out there. But this child, rather than feeling scared of the unknown, looked at the fireball falling from the sky and saw it as something beautiful, much like watching the sunrise. The little child was just like any other kid, but because he had blue eyes, he faced a lot of mistreatment from both adults and other children. It's honestly a miracle he wasn't harmed at all. Even his parents and siblings didn't want him because of this small difference he was born with. It's been days now, and things for the tribe are still just as bad as before. The kid realized that sooner or later, he'd be on his own and would need to figure out how to make it by himself. Luckily, he's pretty observant and has picked up some tricks from the grown-ups, giving him just enough know-how to get by on his own. On a moonlit night, a child grabbed a small knife crafted from the bones of an adult and tied some fruit around his waist. He then headed toward the horizon, eager to find the fireball that had dropped from the sky. The little child has no idea how long it's been since he left his tribe, and it's pretty amazing that he's managed to survive in such a tough world all on his own, driven just by his curiosity. His journey, no matter how tough it was, might seem pointless to others, but it was really just a quest for hope and a desire to find where he truly belongs. The child, without a name, had been walking for a while. His little body felt weak from hunger, and his lips were parched from thirst. He gazed up at a blue light flickering at the mountain's peak, captivating his blue eyes. Despite his weak arms and injured hands, he pushed himself up the steep terrain. There were moments when he thought about giving up, but deep down, he realized he couldn't let all that suffering be for nothing, especially since he had no home to go back to. The child, with his tiny hands all dirty, clung to the edge of the rock, giving it his all to climb up. When he finally made it, tears of joy streamed down his face, and he felt like he might just faint from the excitement. After a couple of minutes of heavy breathing, the child glanced to the side and spotted a weirdly shaped object with a crack around it, glowing with little particles that sparkled like fireflies. The kid walked over to the shiny metal thing, curious about what it was. They couldn't help but take a bite, thinking it might be food. Just then, the light spilling from the crack burst forth, shining so brightly that it enveloped their little body in a dazzling glow. The kid's brain was hit with all sorts of information, stuff that didn't make much sense at first. But over time, as he grew and changed, he started picking up math, philosophy, languages, art, engineering, biology, and more. He didn't just pick up knowledge from beyond his time, he also turned into a source of incredible power. When the kid woke up, he glanced at what used to be the Allspark container. It was totally empty now, just giving off some radiation from its energy signature. Cybertron, Primes, Unicron, Allspark. I'm Allspark. The kid looked at his tiny hands and then gazed out at the forest in the distance. So, here we are, thousands of years later. In the US, there's this sleek black super sports car with gold lines zooming down the road. The driver, a 21-year-old guy, is really pushing the limits of his driving skills, hitting speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. It's quite the sight, to say the least. The young man looked pretty handsome, at least by what most people consider attractive. He had yellow hair, blue eyes, and some whiskers, and while he seemed a bit thin at first, he actually had well-defined muscles hidden under his clothes. The driver spotted a road heading into the countryside, quickly yanked the steering wheel and pressed the clutch, making the car slide across the pavement. This move could have easily made the car tip over and lead to a serious accident, but this car was far from ordinary. The driver's hands glowed with a bright light that enveloped the tires, transforming them into a vibrant red and making the car zoom down the road like it was on a racetrack. What a beautiful day it is today. I found myself talking to myself as I pressed down on the gas, enjoying the view around me. I'm really happy this place hasn't been cut down. It's such a wonderful spot to enjoy nature. Naruto's perspective. Hey there, I'm Naruto, and guess what? I'm the Allspark. People often think it's incredible to have access to almost limitless cosmic power, but honestly, it's not as exciting as it sounds. I mean, just imagine, at any moment, I could be whisked away to some distant planet light years away. You might think that eternal youth sounds awesome, but honestly, spending over 300,000 years just watching the world change isn't as great as it seems. Some folks might consider using this power to reshape the world to fit their vision or to build a perfect society, but trust me, that's not the best path to take. Being an Allspark has really opened my eyes to so much about the universe. Plus, diving into Cybertron's history has taught me that pushing technology forward too quickly can come with its own set of risks. Cybertronians are an incredibly powerful race. They have access to technologies that can wipe out worlds, transform planets, or even create massive objects capable of opening portals through time and space. For countless ages on Cybertron, there's been this ongoing cycle that just doesn't seem to shift. Wars, and more wars. The Cybertronians are stuck in this endless loop of war, making the same mistakes time and again. All those stories saved in the Allspark, plus everything I've learned, have shown me that I really shouldn't get involved with humanity. You know, it's interesting to think about how humans can be even more violent than the Cybertronians. Honestly, if they had more power, I can't help but wonder if this planet would already be in ruins. You know, when we look at history, one of the most striking examples has to be the World Wars. I mean, just thinking about them really supports my argument about not messing with the natural evolution of technology here on Earth. You know, the one thing I really stand by when it comes to humanity is our creativity in the entertainment world. Seriously, no one out there can top us. Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Queen, AC/DC, and the Beatles. You know, being a fan of those legendary bands, I just had to say yes. I went to all the shows back then. While I was having a great time with the wind in my hair, I noticed a massive explosion in the distance. Hey, did a gas truck blow up? I was curious as I pressed down on the gas to reach the explosion site. You know, during this time of year, the forest is at a higher risk for fires. If I don't step in, a big chunk of this area could be gone by the time the firefighters get here. I shifted my car into top gear and hit the gas, feeling the engine roar powerfully as I sped down the road. It's a real bummer, but as stunning as our planet is, it's pretty delicate too. As I got closer to where the explosion happened, I hit the brakes hard when I spotted something that was both totally out of this world and oddly familiar at the same time. So, there's this Cybertronian warship. I couldn't shake off the worry, you know. From what I remember about the latest updates from the Allspark regarding Cybertron, there's this massive civil war happening, and honestly, it would be pretty reckless to dive in without being careful. Even when I caught sight of its somewhat intimidating shape, I found it tough to figure out if it was a friend or foe. From the Allspark's point of view, or maybe my own, I felt like I was tossed into space like a baseball. I hung around for a bit, watching to see if the Cybertronian ship would take off. I kept my distance, just hoping the fire wouldn't spread too much. A clear tube came down from the middle of the ship, landing close to the explosion. It turned out to be an elevator bringing up some robots, including one red robot that looked like it had really taken a beating. I guess I'm in some pretty bad company, I murmured, my hands clenching the wheel. I didn't think much of the Cybertronians, but it turns out they're really here on this planet. Given what we know about Cybertron's past, it seems like the war could still be going on. As the Cybertronian ship disappears into the distance, I'm feeling pretty confident that I can jump in and do my part to stop a forest fire. I hop out of my car and grab a fire extinguisher from the trunk. I'm really not a fan of wars. I couldn't help but clench my fists in frustration as I saw the flames spreading. I shut my eyes and let a tiny bit of my power course through me, just enough to spark a change. As I gripped the fire extinguisher, my hands went pale while I focused, transforming it into an ice gun. Looks like it's time to pull out the big guns. When I pulled the trigger, a beam of ice shot out, freezing the burning trees in an instant. I have to say, I was really impressed by how powerful it was, way more effective than I thought it would be. You know, I think I might just go ahead and call this the instant ice cream gun. After I was confident that the area was all clear, I strolled back to my car and tossed my makeshift gun onto the passenger seat. I'm thinking about grabbing some burgers. Decepticon warship, Starscream, the captain of the warship and the Decepticons, had his sharp fingers deep inside the chest of the Autobot Cliffjumper, putting his life support systems at risk. Cliffjumper's bright blue eyes started to dim, and he fell to the ground without a fuss while Starscream celebrated his unexpected and easy demise. "Can we get this stuff cleaned up?" Starscream called in the folks behind the Autobots' capture, wiping his fingers that were slick with energon, the lifeblood of the Cybertronians. He turned away from the corpse and focused on the controls of the warship. A slender and imposing Decepticon approached with a composed demeanor. In contrast to typical Cybertronians, his face resembled a smooth screen, akin to a television, enhancing his functionality and precision. "What can I assist you with, Soundwave?" Starscream inquired, casting a brief glance over his shoulder to acknowledge his war partner of millennia. Soundwave's face initiated a simulation of radio waves as he transmitted a recording of a conversation between two Autobots that occurred moments prior, specifically involving Cliffjumper and RC. It appears that little RC is in close proximity. It raises the question, why eliminate one Autobot when we have the opportunity to eliminate two? Starscream spoke with a menacing demeanor, revealing his lethal intent. Soundwave positioned himself next to Starscream, resembling a shadow or a specter, indicating that there was an underlying significance. Observing Soundwave's characteristic unsettling silence, Starscream let out a snort and regarded him with a serious expression. "Is there anything else of significance?" Soundwave's face exhibited an energon detection map, indicating a significant release of energy occurring simultaneously at the precise location of Cliffjumper's capture. "Is this an energy signal?" "It appears to be a fragment of energon that detonated. That location was an energon mine of little relevance to us." Starscream pivoted and resumed his duties. "Avoid spending your time on trivial matters." Despite Soundwave's decision to uphold his vow of silence, his mysterious gaze conveyed a multitude of concealed emotions that only a select few could interpret. It was evident that, as a specialist in multiple disciplines, he harbored skepticism towards the enigmatic energy. I proceeded to the subsequent town as marked on the map from the previous town I had traversed. Fortunately, the traffic was light, allowing me to utilize the capabilities of my vehicle without concern for law enforcement. The town I visited was named Jasper, and it appeared to be a pleasant environment for peaceful living. Given the town's relatively small size, it is unlikely to experience crime levels comparable to those found in larger cities. I observed that many individuals were looking at my car and me. It is understandable, as the vehicle was rather distinctive for a modest town. The customization of my vehicle was meticulously executed to meet my specific requirements as I traveled globally. I adhered to the traffic regulations and came to a stop when the signal changed to red. The radio broadcasted tracks from Survivor, and my fingers moved in sync with the rhythm of the drums and guitar on the steering wheel. While appreciating the music, I noticed a well-known fast food establishment and must admit that I began to feel hungry. I am grateful that the Allspark has not changed my biological foundation. It would be quite challenging to permanently lose the ability to eat in a typical manner. Indeed, due to the influence of the Allspark within me, I was not biologically dependent on food for sustenance. However, it remained a matter of principle for me. I have journeyed across the globe and experienced a wide array of diverse culinary delights. I acknowledge that I have certain preferences, particularly regarding hamburgers. However, this does not imply that I am unwilling to explore new options. It brings to mind the period when my diet consisted solely of fruit, roasted meat, and insects. I express my gratitude to humanity for advancing the field of gastronomy. I drove my high-performance vehicle to the fast food establishment and experienced a wait time of only one car ahead of me. When it was my turn to place my order, I requested 3 double-layered burgers with ample cheese and a soda. During my wait, I observed that the vehicle ahead had evaded payment to the waiter and taken their food without settling the bill. I found myself exasperated, as it seems many individuals choose to remain uninformed by their own volition. I find it difficult to understand individuals of that nature. It is remarkable that humanity has persevered despite such behaviors. I remarked with a hint of annoyance as I approached the window to collect my snacks. It seems like today has been quite challenging, hasn't it? I inquired, directing my gaze towards the attendant, a young man of approximately 16 or 17 years of age. The teenager was intrigued to observe the black supercar and was captivated by the exotic vehicle's impressive design. Indeed, it has been a challenging day. He promptly turned around and retrieved the burgers that Naruto requested. The cost is $20. I empathize with the young individual. He clearly demonstrates a strong work ethic and integrity. Therefore, extending a helping hand occasionally is certainly warranted. I subtly utilize my creative abilities and produce $100 100 bills from my pocket, amounting to a total of $10,000. In practice, I understand the legal implications, but I possess a high level of expertise in generating financial resources from seemingly nothing. May I inquire your name? I inquired. I am Jack Darby. Jack responded with minimal engagement, eager to return to his tasks. Here is your payment. Please retain the remainder. I handed him the money in a straightforward manner. Given my ability to perform this technique numerous times daily, it poses no challenge for me. Additionally, I have honed and utilized this method extensively, even dating back to the Roman Empire. Jack accepted the money, and within 3 seconds, he comprehended the sum he held in his hand. Hold on a moment, I am unable to accept this. Please accept this as a gesture of goodwill. I believe it would be more beneficial for you. I collected my burgers and soda and carefully navigated my vehicle into the parking lot adjacent to the fast food establishment. At last, the most rewarding segment of my day commences. Naruto savored her snack with the delight of someone experiencing chocolate for the first time, completely unaware of the blue motorcycle parked in the adjacent space. A short while ago, RC was navigating the streets in her vehicle mode, reflecting on the loss of her partner Cliffjumper and seeking a diversion. Driving occasionally served as a means for her to divert her attention from the negative thoughts that accumulated during her moments of frustration. As she navigated through the city, she observed 2 suspicious vehicles trailing her, indicating that they were adversaries on a mission, and she was prepared to confront them decisively. She recognized that engaging in a public confrontation would lead to unnecessary complications and anxiety among the humans. Therefore, she opted to distance herself for the time being and parked near a restaurant to strategize her next steps. As RC waited, a supercar arrived and parked beside her, impressing her with its meticulously crafted design. She recognized that every Cybertronian would undoubtedly desire this vehicle as a disguise. She observed the individual consuming his meal, a clear expression of satisfaction evident on his face. However, there was an intriguing quality about him that captured her interest. Naruto observed the blue motorcycle beside him, appreciating its beauty, completely oblivious to the Cybertronian nearby, observing him discreetly. As time elapsed, Naruto consumed his 3rd burger, while RC observed him with a curious expression, unable to shake a sense of familiarity regarding the human, a thought she contemplated within her cybernetic mind. The entrance to the establishment swung open, revealing Jack as he concluded his shift, cell phone in hand, engaged in a conversation with his mother. He was momentarily distracted until he noticed the blue motorcycle that captured his attention, as he is an avid enthusiast of that type of vehicle. He powered down his phone and approached to appreciate the elegance of the vehicle, even taking a seat and grasping the handlebars. I must acknowledge that this motorcycle is quite stunning. Is it yours, by any chance? I inquired, observing the boy's apparent fascination with the vehicle. Jack turned around and observed the luxury car beside him, along with the driver who had just awarded him a $10,000 bonus. The bike does not belong to me, however, I aspire to own a similar one in the future. Motorcycles are vehicles that typically do not capture my interest, however, I must acknowledge that certain models possess an undeniable charm and an alluring harmony. I provided my thoughts while enjoying my soda. This bike meets your requirements exceptionally well, your taste is commendable. RC experienced a sense of unease as she was the center of attention due to her appearance. However, her discomfort intensified when she observed the same two suspicious vehicles gradually drawing closer, instilling a feeling of anxiety and concern within her. May I inquire about your name? Do you hold a status as a celebrity? Jack inquired. My name is Naruto. While I may not consider myself a celebrity, I can assure you that many individuals would go to great lengths to seek my attention. I expressed it with irony, though there was a kernel of truth in my statement. Typically, I tend to communicate only the essentials with others, however, this individual named Jack was particularly easy to engage with due to his personality. It seems you have a great sense of humor. May I inquire if you are currently traveling? This town lacks significant appeal. Jack genuinely enjoyed his time with Naruto, as he did not come across as arrogant or entitled. In principle, you are correct. I am currently exploring the globe in search of a new adventure. I have provided my response. This location offers a level of tranquility that is often absent in larger urban environments, making it a place where I could comfortably reside. It seems you have cultivated a diverse network of friends globally, which is quite impressive. I find it difficult to envision such a scenario in my own life. Jack reflected on the modest life he experienced, a testament to his mother's dedication and hard work. He was unconcerned about his financial situation, as his mother instilled in him the importance of valuing various aspects of life beyond monetary wealth. Upon hearing the term friends, I experienced a sense of discomfort and a touch of melancholy. I am not an antisocial individual, however, I have come to realize over time that the experience of immortality has led me to understand that forming friendships or developing attachments can be quite painful, indeed. Observing the aging and passing of those I hold dear is a significant challenge, which is why I tend to limit the depth of my friendships. I swiftly compose myself and revert to my customary calm demeanor. Jack, happiness can often be found in the smallest details, perhaps a shift in perspective is all that is needed. Jack found Naruto's words compelling. However, before he could respond, two cars activated their headlights at full intensity, inundating them with a blinding flash of light, prompting both to shut their eyes momentarily in response to the unexpected occurrence. The two Decepticons, in their vehicle mode, accelerated with the aim of colliding directly with the blue motorcycle and the two individuals nearby. The motorcycle that Jack was operating unexpectedly started to rotate as though it possessed a will of its own, responding to the abrupt emergence of the two vehicles. Through a remarkable display of skill and instinct, Jack maintained his balance on the bike and navigated towards the two cars, skillfully maneuvering through a narrow gap between them. I experienced a brief moment of disorientation due to the unexpected flash of light. However, upon hearing the approaching sound of a car's engine, I promptly reversed and maneuvered to the side at the last moment to prevent a collision. The two Decepticons were taken aback by the human's skill in evading their collision, but they swiftly set aside those considerations and continued their pursuit of the Autobot and its human companion. I paused momentarily to regain my composure after the unexpected event. What was that individual attempting to do? Damage the paint on my vehicle? I observed intently in the direction of the two vehicles pursuing Jack, but I noticed something amiss when I glanced at the driver's seats. There was no one at the wheel. It appears that they are Cybertronians. I spoke aloud without realizing it. They were not pursuing me, but what is the reason for their interest in Jack? Unless, I hope you're not suggesting that the bike is extraterrestrial in origin. I accelerated and pursued Jack. I could not allow an innocent individual to become entangled in a conflict that did not belong to him. I felt a sense of obligation to assist him, yet it remains a significant risk to reveal myself in this manner. Perhaps by offering my support discreetly, I can continue to lead my life as normal, assuming fortune is on my side. While pursuing the two vehicles following Jack, I noticed the ice gun positioned on the co-pilot's seat, contemplating its adequacy for the circumstances at hand. I had no intention of engaging in a pursuit. I remarked on the bike Jack was riding, noting its almost erratic movements. It was evident that the bike seemed to possess a life of its own. What an impressive experience. I have already had 2 encounters today, exceeding my expectations. RC experienced significant frustration as she found herself needing to escape due to the presence of the human accompanying her. She had to strategize effectively to divert the Decepticon's attention away from the human, allowing her to engage in combat without restraint. Consequently, she made a sharp right turn, nearly causing her passenger to lose balance. As Jack dismounted the bike, he retreated with his arms elevated in apprehension. "Could you please clarify your identity?" RC turned to him. Although she was not in her true form, she effectively conveyed her emotions. "I expect you to remain silent about what you observed today, or there will be serious consequences." She compelled Jack to flee from her with remarkable speed. RC accelerated away from the human, anticipating that the 2 enemy robots would pursue her. However, her strategy proved ineffective, as the 2 Decepticons were instructed to eliminate any perceived allies of the Autobots, including the human. Upon noticing that a Decepticon was pursuing Jack, she promptly altered her course to return for the human, but first, she needed to evade the Decepticon assigned to eliminate her. Jack sprinted with all his might, clearly not accustomed to physical exertion. However, his predicament worsened when he observed one of the pursuers gaining speed, intent on colliding with him. Prior to the incident, a high-performance sports car unexpectedly emerged and commenced drifting towards the Decepticon at an accelerated pace. Naruto extended his right hand from the vehicle, wielding his ice gun, and discharged a freezing ray that struck the Decepticon, promptly forming a wall of ice to shield Jack. I efficiently navigated the vehicle and positioned it alongside Jack, simultaneously opening the door. "Accompany me if you wish to ensure your survival," I mentioned, seizing the chance to allude to one of my preferred action films. I never anticipated having the opportunity to apply that line in a practical context. Jack promptly entered the vehicle and urged me to accelerate, emphasizing the need to leave the area swiftly. "Today presents significant challenges for you," I remarked, accelerating towards the highway. "Who are these individuals? They are attempting to harm me." Jack glanced back and observed the vehicle that had previously attempted to endanger him, now marked with traces of ice on its surface. "He has returned. He is pursuing us closely. Please refrain from yelling in my ear, it will not enhance my car's performance." I provided my input while ensuring that I did not inadvertently collide with any vehicles. "What is happening?" Jack observed that 2 aggressive vehicles were rapidly approaching, now equipped with external weaponry. "Would you prefer a brief overview or a more detailed explanation?" I inquired sincerely, as it was a challenging situation to articulate regardless of the perspective. Recognizing Jack's evident fear, I chose to alleviate his anxiety by offering him a measure of honesty. The Decepticons initiated an assault with red energon blasts, aiming to destroy Naruto's vehicle. However, Naruto demonstrated exceptional driving skills by skillfully evading the lethal projectiles, while Jack expressed his distress with a scream. His shots resulted in minor detonations on the asphalt, leading to significant alarm among the crowd and multiple vehicles colliding forcefully. In summary, you have unintentionally become involved in the conflict between the Decepticons and the Autobots. They are self-sufficient cybernetic entities originating from the planet Cybertron, which can be considered an intriguing location, provided one overlooks the prolonged conflict that has persisted for millions of years. I responded with composure, disregarding the lethal beams capable of reducing a person to mere atoms. "They are attempting to harm us, and you are responding as if it is a completely ordinary situation." Jack expressed his concern, apprehensive about the potential impact of the red blasts. Despite the gravity of the situation, he found himself genuinely impressed by Naruto's driving skills, which transcended conventional expectations. "Could you please increase your speed? It is necessary for us to exit this highway." I expressed my desire to find a method of escape that would not damage the paint on my vehicle. Given our current trajectory, it will soon become unfeasible for us to evade impact. The Decepticons recognized the futility of targeting the two humans with their energon, leading them to opt for a more aggressive strategy. The two accelerated swiftly and succeeded in maintaining pace with Naruto's supercar. However, before they could launch their attack, a blue motorcycle and a yellow Camaro emerged to intercept them. RC, aided by Bumblebee, successfully impeded the Decepticons' progress, providing Naruto and Jack with an opportunity to escape swiftly. The bike has returned, and it is now accompanied by another. Jack issued a warning upon observing the two lethal vehicles decelerating. Let's proceed to extend the distance. I changed gears in my vehicle, accelerating to over 300 kilometers per hour, distancing myself from the intense conflict unfolding on wheels. Naruto and Jack were retreating from the alien confrontation, but their initial relief quickly transformed into despair upon realizing that the road ahead was blocked by a barricade, indicating that they could not proceed due to ongoing construction of the overpass. Naruto attempted to decelerate the vehicle, but soon recognized that halting it in time would be unfeasible. Consequently, he focused on minimizing the potential damage from the impending disaster. I maneuvered the steering wheel to the right prior to traversing the overpass, resulting in the vehicle breaching the guardrail and descending into a ravine beneath the overpass. Based on our route, it is likely that the suspension sustained significant damage. I glanced to the side and observed Jack with his face pressed against the airbag, fortunately unharmed, perhaps with only a minor bruise. I maintained a sense of composure, as the Allspark within me offers a satisfactory level of regeneration, despite my uncertainty regarding its limits and my lack of interest in exploring them. Upon exiting the vehicle, I seized the opportunity to assess the damage. However, my focus shifted to a child engaged with his remote control car, who observed me with a sense of wonder. The child exclaimed, "Wow! Impressive." I observed the boy and acknowledged him with a wave. "Please refrain from attempting that at home." I made light of the situation to avoid causing distress to a child. Jack exited the vehicle unsteadily, supporting his head with one hand. He narrowly avoided an embarrassing situation, demonstrating remarkable self-control in the process. "I hope you are doing well," I inquired with courtesy, recognizing from his demeanor that he was well, merely disoriented from the impact, and that a night's rest would suffice for his recovery. "I believe I am fine," Jack stated. Before the situation could stabilize, a yellow robot descended from the overpass onto Naruto's vehicle, prompting a reaction as he observed his car utterly ruined, now irreparably. The blue motorcycle was positioned at the edge of the ravine, seemingly unattended. It swiftly descended and executed a graceful leap, landing beside the individuals, before shortly undergoing a transformation that unveiled its true form. A 450 centimeters tall female Cybertronian has now taken the place of the blue motorcycle. Her transformation enabled her to alter her mass, resulting in a size greater than anticipated in relation to her vehicle mode. Her slender metallic form, while seemingly delicate, was imbued with the weight of years of experience and conflict. RC observed the three humans and briefly shifted her gaze to her disoriented companion, who had just been propelled from the overpass. "Let's go, Bumblebee. I require your assistance." As soon as RC made her statement, the two Decepticons leapt off the overpass simultaneously, landing on the ground with precision, weapons drawn, prepared to eliminate all present. The superhero landing exerts significant pressure on the knees. I spoke assertively, prompting the robots to direct their attention towards me briefly before turning their focus back to their adversaries. RC and Bumblebee encountered challenges while engaging the two Decepticons, as they had not participated in combat for 3 years. Their lack of coordination was evident, particularly in RC, who was grieving the loss of her war partner. A young individual named Raph Esquivel observed the confrontation between the robots with a sense of excitement, akin to that of engaging in a video game, despite lacking a full understanding of the events unfolding. Despite the contrasting circumstances for Jack, he approached the situation with a serious demeanor, striving to comprehend all that was unfolding. In contrast, Naruto remained entirely indifferent, preoccupied with thoughts about who would cover the costs of his car repairs. "What are they?" Raph inquired, maintaining his focus on the ongoing fight. Extraterrestrial automatons engaged in combat to determine the destiny of their native planet on various other worlds such as this one. I remarked, playfully critiquing the confrontation while contemplating the reason behind the pronounced curves of a female alien robot. Demonstrate. Raph responds, expressing confidence in Naruto's statements. Would it not be more prudent for us to depart before we face any potential harm? Jack expressed his disbelief regarding Naruto and Raph's apparent lack of fear in such a perilous situation. Naruto and Raph exchanged a silent nod, both departing the battlefield while the Autobots continued their efforts to overcome the Decepticons. Jack positioned himself next to Raph, offering him protection akin to that of an older brother, and guided him towards a sewer pipe, while Naruto trailed behind them, moving silently with his hands in his pockets. One of the Decepticons, recognizing that the three were preparing to flee, attempted to pursue them. However, his progress was interrupted when Naruto glanced back, his eyes radiating a white glow, which caused the Decepticon to pause. The Decepticon's momentary distraction and hesitation provided Bumblebee with the opportunity to deliver a forceful strike to his face, resulting in a fist-shaped indentation in the structure of his metal head. The conflict between the Autobots and Decepticons was clearly leaning in favor of the Decepticons until a robust pickup truck emerged, sounded its horn, and transformed into a formidable battle robot with an impressive fighting spirit. Who is interested in a challenging competition? Bulkhead proclaimed with intensity, striking their fists together, producing a formidable sound. The Decepticons, recognizing their numerical disadvantage, promptly shifted into their vehicle mode and retreated from the conflict, preferring to preserve their lives rather than engage in a futile struggle. Could you please explain the delay? RC inquired. Traffic conditions. Bulkhead responded with a clear and straightforward answer. Bumblebee was left staring at him in disbelief and indignation. Naruto, Raph, and Jack exited the sewers via a manhole cover that Naruto removed with notable ease, thanks to certain enhancements to her physical attributes. Indeed, it was quite an adventure, Jack remarked, positioning himself on his knees. You performed commendably for your first attempt, however, addressing the issue with excessive volume would be beneficial. I offered my compliments to Jack, with a hint of irony. Raph, your composure at such a young age is commendable, you deserve recognition for it. Raph smiled, but his expression swiftly shifted to one of sadness as he recalled that he had forgotten his toy. I have misplaced my remote control car. There is no need for concern. I reached behind my back and produced a miniature replica of my damaged vehicle. I presented the toy to him, catching him off guard with my gesture. That is quite impressive. Raph examined his new toy, appreciating its shape and design as a robotics enthusiast. Could you please explain how you accomplished that? Jack inquired, perplexed as the toy had seemingly materialized unexpectedly. It resembles the saying, a wizard never reveals his secrets. I stated, proceeding to walk away with composure. Where are you headed? Raph inquired. I will navigate my path based on the opportunities that arise. I observed the sky and noted that the sun was nearing the horizon. Please return to your residences and loved ones. Will we have the opportunity to see you again? Jack sensed that his unforeseen new acquaintance was an individual who would be challenging to encounter again. It is possible that our paths may cross again in the future. I raised my hand to bid farewell with a peace sign. Farewell. Remaining in this city is not a viable option at this point. My presence may inadvertently ignite a conflict that could lead to significant destruction. I proceeded to the bus stop and awaited the arrival of the next bus for my departure. It was an unforeseen experience, I acknowledge, but the potential consequences of revealing my identity were significant. The following day, Jack exited the school premises and observed Raph positioned by a tree, awaiting a ride. Upon encountering one another, they approached with a measured demeanor to exchange greetings. Hello, Raph. Jack expressed some discouragement. Hello, Jack. Raph responded with enthusiasm, as is typical for someone of his age. Raph, let's set aside our past interactions. What we experienced is beyond comprehension. Jack found it challenging to articulate his experience regarding the robot fight he had observed the previous day, an event that had nearly resulted in his demise. A yellow Camaro approached, honking, its door opening to reveal an absence of a driver, creating an eerie, almost spectral atmosphere. The vehicle emitted an unusual beeping sound, resembling a sequence of tones, which rendered it challenging for the average individual to comprehend, nearly indecipherable to most people. "Is it inviting us to enter?" Jack inquired with a hint of skepticism. "He would like me to come in. Your transportation has arrived." Raph gestured towards a stationary blue motorcycle, appearing to survey the surroundings. Raph entered the vehicle and engaged in conversation with Bumblebee as if they were longtime acquaintances, leaving Jack to interact with the alien motorcycle on his own. Jack, upon noticing the motorcycle, chose to disregard it and return home. However, his fate was already intertwined with this group of robots engaged in a covert battle to safeguard humanity. Noticing Jack's disregard for her, RC resolved to pursue him and engage in a conversation, clarifying that his safety was at risk following his unintentional sighting with the Autobots. Regrettably, the seasoned warrior was oblivious to the fact that a rebellious and inquisitive girl had trailed her, observing RC's authentic humanoid form as she endeavored to communicate with the human. His existence is now intertwined with the Autobots as the conflict persists. Bumblebee and RC arrived back at the confidential Autobot base, each accompanied by a designated human. However, RC brought along an additional human, a girl, beyond her intended assignment. Miko Nakadai is an energetic and rebellious individual of Japanese descent, possessing a complex personality. Despite her occasional lack of responsibility, she is fundamentally a person of good character. Bumblebee and RC accelerated swiftly across the sandy terrain towards the mountain. Just as they were about to impact the rocky surface, a concealed gate opened, unveiling an entrance to the mountain. Raph, Jack, and Miko experienced an unprecedented level of admiration upon witnessing the colossal humanoid robots, which evoked a multitude of sensations in them. The initial robot they encountered was a white and orange Autobot, an irritable veteran war medic known as Ratchet. The other formidable robot featured a predominantly green exterior with black accents on his shoulders, embodying the essence of brute strength. He is recognized for his history as a soldier in a faction known as the Wreckers, and his name is Bulkhead. As the individuals exited the vehicles, RC and Bumblebee transitioned into their authentic forms. However, Ratchet was keenly aware of the Miko girl's presence. "I was under the impression that there were 3 boys." Ratchet found himself perplexed by the arrival of the girl. "I will provide an explanation at a later time." RC expressed her frustration, noting that Miko had witnessed her and made her feel foolish for failing to conceal her alien identity. "Hello, my name is Raph." Raph presented himself with the ease of someone accustomed to such interactions. Miko approached Bulkhead promptly, as it was the largest of the 4 robots present in the area. "I am Miko. May I ask who you are?" Bulkhead responded, feeling uneasy as he was not accustomed to interacting with humans. "Impressive. You must be quite an impressive vehicle. What is your weight? Are you a fan of heavy metal music? Have you ever utilized a wrecking ball as a substitute for a punching bag?" Miko posed a series of inquiries that effectively astonished the imposing Autobot. "I apologize for the inquiry, but if you are indeed robots, could you please share who created you?" Raph inquired, unaware that his phrasing appeared disrespectful to Ratchet, a devoted admirer of the ancient legends of Cybertron. A subtle tremor was generated by the heavy footsteps nearing the 3 individuals, prompting them to turn and observe a robot standing approximately 10 meters tall, characterized by its dominant blue and red hues. "We are self-sufficient cybernetic entities originating from the planet Cybertron, commonly referred to as Autobots." Optimus Prime spoke, enveloped in an air of mystique and assurance. Jack's eyes widened momentarily as he recognized that Naruto's words were in alignment with those of the giant robot. It appears that he was indeed truthful. Jack contemplated, yet his curiosity ultimately prevailed. "What is the purpose of their presence?" "To safeguard your planet from the Decepticons." Optimus provided a response. "Those individuals are responsible for the shooting incident involving you and your friend. RC has been included. If we are all present at this moment, where is Naruto?" Jack inquired, drawing Raph's attention, who was contemplating the same question. "Raph and I observed your altercation with those individuals. May I inquire as to why Naruto is not present?" "Regrettably, we were unable to locate any evidence of your friend." Optimus expressed his concern for Naruto's safety. I would like you to remain with us due to my concerns that the Decepticons may have taken him. What could be the reason for his capture? Raph inquired, acknowledging the peril he faced. Individuals linked to the Autobots are regarded as adversaries by the Decepticons, who will not hesitate to unleash devastation for their own advantage. Optimus lowered himself to obtain a clearer perspective of the humans. My objective is to safeguard humanity, as freedom is an inherent right of all sentient beings. Should Naruto be captured, it is imperative that we locate him. Jack stated. I have been seeking information regarding an individual named Naruto. However, I was taken aback to discover that he is not present in the records of the human government, as if he were a phantom. Ratchet utilized his computer to conduct a search for the missing boy. This individual presents two potential scenarios. He may have been captured, or he is exceptionally concealing his whereabouts. During the time Naruto and I were being pursued, he expressed a sentiment quite akin to what you just mentioned. Jack observed Optimus, who appeared both surprised and perplexed. Are you suggesting that Naruto was cognizant of our presence? Optimus inquired, given that there were only a limited number of humans aware of the Cybertronians' presence on the planet. I may not be the most qualified individual to address your inquiry, but it appeared that Naruto had a clear understanding of the situation. Jack responded, equally perplexed as Optimus Prime. Within the realm of outer space, a space bridge, discreetly positioned a few thousand kilometers from Earth, is a substantial structure designed for the transportation of ships and troops across both space and time. The structure, taking the form of an enormous ring, emits a brilliant glow as it activates, creating a portal at its center. After a brief moment of anticipation, a Cybertronian fighter jet emerges from the portal. The Cybertronian fighter undergoes a transformation into a robotic form, unveiling an entity that personifies malevolence. Decepticons. I have returned. Megatron speaks with a sinister intent. A bus was traversing a desert road in temperatures exceeding 30 degrees Celsius. The bus driver was perspiring heavily while transporting a single passenger who assured him of a substantial payment. Following nearly 4 hours of travel, the bus came to a halt in front of an expansive, deserted junkyard. The driver extended his arms and glanced back to observe his sole passenger resting quietly. Good morning, it's time to rise. We are present. When Naruto heard the driver's speech, his blue eyes gleamed for a minute. He rose up and collected a bag of money he had made to present to the driver. $50,000 is agreed. I hand over the bag of money and exit the bus, finally seeing the junkyard. After examining the money, the driver smiled greedily. It was a pleasure doing business with you. The driver started his vehicle and drove away, leaving Naruto behind. Now it's time to find something worthy of being my new car. I pass past the rusted fence, noticing hundreds of parts and abandoned automobiles. I could have bought a new automobile, but to be honest, I've always preferred to mend things and customize them to my liking. I couldn't help but shed phony tears as I remembered how my beloved automobile had turned into pancakes. After 2 hours of shopping for a car that appealed to me, I was becoming bored. I know I should invest my time in a basic and unobtrusive automobile, but to be honest, after thousands of years of riding horses, it gets tiresome and hard on the back. My thoughts were interrupted when I turned to the right and noticed an automobile without an engine or wheels, which is unusual in this location. A Dodge Viper. Who in their right mind would abandon this beast here? I was horrified that someone would dump this sort of vehicle. In my perspective, it was a muscle vehicle with a particular elegance and grandeur that you don't find in any other automobile of its kind. Humph. Nothing can prevent a good refurbishment from bringing this monster back to life. I grasped the front of the automobile and used my superhuman strength to drag what was left of its structure into a shed, where I could work away from the sweltering heat. When I had successfully positioned it, I let the Allspark's energy to flow into my hands, taking great care not to mistakenly make a humanoid robot or anything else with paws and eyes. I discovered that the Allspark's radiation, or rather its energy, is extremely sensitive to objects, so I gradually realized that I just needed a very small and unnoticeable quantity to make something without the risk of generating life from scratch. Another technique to avoid mistakenly producing a life is to make the components separately, exactly like the real ones. This, of course, increased my effort, but it was comparable to putting together a puzzle. Because it was so simple to put anything together in this manner, it made for a highly enjoyable activity. After 4 hours of assembly, I had completed the refurbishment, with the exception of painting the automobile, which was already fairly intriguing due to its well-polished metallic look. Fortunately, I discovered an old automotive spray gun, but I had to think carefully about which color would at least complement the appearance of my new automobile. After 20 minutes of thought, I had a mental image of what I wanted the finished product to look like, and after a few hours, I was successful. The repaired Viper was painted silver gray with 2 black lines going down the middle, from the bonnet to the back. The automobile featured a huge black spoiler that contrasted with the color. The car's wheels were gold, with all black tires. After thinking about the automobile repair, I felt relieved and lost no time in finally listening to the engine. When I clicked the start button, the engine screamed as if there was a tiger underneath it. Oh, yeah, I stepped on the pedal, and the automobile nearly threw me out of my seat owing to the unexpected force. Indeed, not everyone can drive this automobile. Let us see how fast you are. The car felt like lightning and much quicker than my last vehicle. It was also aided by the energon that I had implanted as modified fuel. It's time to test this new mechanism I've been working on for the past few years. I clicked a button on my steering wheel, causing my car to sound significantly louder. I hope it doesn't explode this time. I feel a little shaking in the steering wheel, and rays of various colors pass through my automobile, amplifying the sound of the engine. A portal emerges at least 100 meters distant from me, and I accelerate towards it using coordinates from a random part of Europe. As I traversed the portal, the searing desert environment faded away, leaving behind a far more comfortable climate. As I looked around, I saw I was in a grassy area with a few tiny trees around. In front of me stood a Greek monument of an old temple. Thankfully, I recognized the building. I stood in front of the magnificent Temple of Zeus, which is one of Greece's most popular tourist destinations. I need to calibrate the teleportation system. Soon I'll be able to save on airfare. I placed my hands on my waist with pride. It will be impossible for me to be found or get involved in this stupid war, unless I'm very unlucky. A few hours later, a stealth and espionage drone glided stealthily through the night, its radar probing for a variety of strange energy signs. Unlike the government-run drones, this one carried the emblem of an extraterrestrial faction. When the drone's radar detected a frivolous solitary energy signature, it fell into a junkyard. However, before landing, the drone transformed into its actual form, plummeting to the earth with skill and grandeur. Soundwave scanned his surroundings for any suspicious activity, whether it was human or Cybertronian. His face acted like a radar, scanning for any more meaningful sign of energy. He strolled around the abandoned area, inspecting every detail, and noticed indications of human footsteps a few minutes later, which he believed were recent. Soundwave approached the ancient warehouse and surveyed everything, but he saw nothing of interest at first glance. He eventually observed indications of radiation emanating from a highly unique source after increasing the sensitivity of his sensors to the utmost. As he expected, he received the same energy pulse as earlier near the location where the Autobot cliffjumper was apprehended. He saw that the radiation was slowly fading into the air as if it had never existed, vanishing totally within minutes of discovery, which was odd, but he now had a baseline for tracking this energy if he ever came across this potential abnormality again. Soundwave is an exceptionally fastidious Decepticon who has always emphasized the most viable outcomes over Megatron's success, yet he was really interested, as if this energy was familiar, and he couldn't recall where this emotion originated from. Decepticon ship. The days passed when Megatron returned to the Decepticon army. Everything went as planned. There was the occasional explosion or death, but it was the most typical day in this place. Soundwave went about his normal duties, multitasking to help the Decepticon cruiser Nemesis. He was quietly concerned while he investigated and waited for the odd energy pulse to be discovered again, which was not typical of him. Meanwhile, Megatron admired and analyzed the massive amount of dark energon, the blood of Unicron, the creator of chaos. His plan was to harness its strength and form a new army based on the Cybertronian undead, one that was not restricted to the physical aspects of mortality, but rather bestial. Megatron was just notified that Starscream had blown up the main Energon mine as part of the Autobot invasion in quest of Cliffjumper. Megatron didn't mind the slight delay, but he did note that his faithful soldier Soundwave was quieter than normal. Having known him for millions of years, he knew when he was restless, even if other people couldn't tell. Starscream, Megatron said, keeping an eye on his ample supply of black energon. Master, how may I serve you? Starscream bent his head in reverence and dread, not wanting to enrage his volatile master. I notice Soundwave is more distracted than usual. What has happened in the last 3 years? Megatron peered over his shoulder and noticed Starscream tighten up slightly. Nothing much, my master. Soundwave is always busy with his duties. Starscream said with apparent trepidation. He wouldn't be distracted if it weren't for something that piqued his curiosity or might be relevant to the Decepticon cause. Megatron spoke with an authoritative voice. Starscream was taken aback, knowing what occurred when Megatron became furious, but he instantly remembered a detail. A few days ago, Soundwave detected a unique energy, but I told him not to let it distract him. Megatron arched his mechanical eyebrow in response to Starscream's comments, placing his hands behind his back and studying his black energon supply. Unique energy, interesting. Soundwave was in his private chamber, utilizing his tentacles to complete the several chores for which he had previously been responsible. He was performing a complex mathematical calculation based on the radiation of the unknown energy, attempting to uncover its alleged full potential, and all signs were that it was extremely significant to the Decepticons. He had lately infiltrated the primary satellites of the world's most powerful countries, using them to scour the world's largest cities for even the smallest quantity of this energy to confirm and complete his suspicions, but fate was not on his side. The automated door opened, revealing the massive Megatron, who walked like a god of devastation, which was not far off the mark. Soundwave, we need to talk. Megatron remarked, his voice dark but calm, for Soundwave was one of the few who merited his entire and unwavering respect. Soundwave just turned to his master, keeping the same enigmatic demeanor he always had. I couldn't help but notice that you were a little distracted, as if you had something to invest. Megatron stood 2 paces from his servant. What's bothering you? Soundwave delivered his facts quickly and without hesitation, revealing a sophisticated and intricate study of energy frequencies. It displayed a vast variety of computations and hypotheses he had developed during the last several days, equivalent to 30 years of study if he had been human. This feels a bit different from regular energon, doesn't it? Interesting. Megatron was intrigued. The energy trail was definitely something unusual, especially since they were on Earth. Just how powerful is this energy? Soundwave showed a graph comparing different power sources, and it caught Megatron off guard when he pointed out that the single energy source was on the same level as dark energon. Megatron squinted, feeling a mix of admiration and doubt that such a powerful energy had slipped under the radar for so long. I know you and your attention to detail. That energy is tough to pick up on, even with all that power. Megatron thought for a moment before heading back to the command bridge. Let's keep our attention on the main project, but if you sense that energy again, we'll send our troops to grab the power. Soundwave just nodded and got back to work, not wanting to waste any more time than he had to. He was in the middle of his task, working on the plan to build a supermassive army of Cybertronian undead. Megatron strolled through his warship, lost in thought, completely unaware that the strange energy he sensed was tied to something incredibly powerful he had been searching for since the war against Optimus Prime and his Autobots began. But meeting that object or being would take a while, thanks to the big battle coming up where he would be a key player. A couple of weeks down the line, 2 alien ships from Cybertron, yep, you guessed it, Decepticons, zoomed into our solar system, making their way light years to land on the new battlefield, planet Earth. The 2 ships collided in different areas of the world. One landed in the western United States, while the other came down in southern Europe, specifically in Greece. So, there's this Decepticon named Breakdown who crashed in the USA. He's an exterminator and assassin targeting Autobots, and he rolls around in an armored truck as his vehicle mode. His buddy who had the crash in Europe, Knockout, a doctor with a knack for various medical fields, was a little more discreet in picking his new ride. "I gotta say, humans really know how to pick 'em," Knockout remarked, taking in the stunning luxury cars at the dealership. "I'm on the lookout for something that really complements my beauty and grandeur as a Decepticon. It's too bad I'm the only one who really gets fashion." Knockout is quite the character. He's a Decepticon with a big ego, working as a doctor who focuses on plastic medicine. But what really gets him excited are his wild medical experiments that push the boundaries of legality, not to mention his love for racing.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video.
Cybertron racing
thrilled you
since he
watched
was
the
a kid.
video. If you enjoyed
The
it,
Decepticon
be sure
took
to
his
like
time
and
checking
subscribe
out
for
each
even
car
more
in the
exciting
dealership,
content
and
coming your
after
way
a bit,
soon.
he spotted one that really showed off his greatness, a sleek, luxurious red Aston Martin. Happy with his new ride, he figured it was time to put his skills as a speed lover to the test. Knockout didn't think twice about breaking a bunch of traffic rules just for kicks. He was so fast that even the police couldn't keep up, which made for a really fun night for him, free from the worries of the war he was caught up in. In that brief period, Knockout picked up a few human customs and got the hang of the rules of the road. He realized that it wouldn't be long before the new temporary leader of the Decepticons, the notorious and somewhat dubious Starscream, would call on him. Starscream had taken over after Megatron got seriously hurt in that last showdown with Optimus Prime and his Autobots, all while trying to prevent him from wiping out Earth with a horde of zombie Cybertronians. You know, it turns out that Megatron actually survived that space bridge explosion, and it was all thanks to a bit of luck and some mystical stuff called Dark Energon. Who would have thought? If Megatron hadn't been swayed by the power of Dark Energon and fallen under Unicron's influence during that battle, he probably wouldn't have ended up in a deep coma, teetering on the edge of death, stuck in a never-ending fight with Optimus Prime, the very brother he once cherished. Always in your dreams. Knockout was just hanging out, waiting for the traffic light to turn green so he could kick off his night. But then, he noticed a gray Dodge Viper with black stripes pull up right next to him, also waiting for the light to change. His curiosity definitely got the better of him. Knockout was totally blown away by the car's wild beauty, and the roar of the engine was just music to his ears. He couldn't help but glance at the driver and noticed it was a young guy in his 20s, sipping a soda through a straw and jamming to some music. Naruto glanced over and took a moment to appreciate the beauty of the car beside him, feeling a sense of respect for the driver's great taste. "Not too shabby, I have to say, you've got great taste." I gave a compliment while enjoying my soda. Knockout was taken aback for a second, but then he felt pretty pleased that the little human was indirectly giving a nod to his great taste. "I gotta say, your car really impressed me too." Knockout figured he'd return the compliment, admitting that the car next to him was pretty impressive. He kept the windows of his car closed and dark, so Naruto couldn't see that there was no one behind the wheel. I lifted an eyebrow and grinned. "Oh, so you're one of those enthusiasts, huh? Less than text. I suppose you're more than just an ordinary fan." "I really love it." Knockout got what Naruto was aiming for. "Hey, do you think you can keep up with me? You know, I've never actually lost a race in my life." I kept teasing, sliding my soda into the cup holder and then grabbing the steering wheel with both hands. "No way, same here." Knockout made his engine roar even louder. You could hear it from over 6 blocks away. "How about we race to the city limits? First one out of the city takes the win." I pressed down on the gas pedal, and the engine let out a powerful roar. Naruto and Knockout stood there, eagerly waiting for the light to change, both buzzing with excitement for the challenge ahead. As soon as the light turned green, they both hit the gas at the same time, and for a brief moment, their tires skidded, sending up a cloud of smoke from the friction with the pavement. They stood next to each other, not rushing things, just observing each other's skills before they decided to pick up the speed in the competition. As they neared the corner, they both started to drift together, perfectly in sync. They kept at it for a few rounds, picking up the pace whenever they got the chance. Knockout thought to himself, this human really knows how to have a good time, as he found himself genuinely enjoying the unexpected challenge on his first day on Earth. Things really heated up as they were just a few miles away from the finish line. Knockout was buzzing with adrenaline. He had never felt this much pressure before. The human gradually started to take control, pulling ahead even more in the competition. Wow, what kind of engine do you have in there? Knockout was really taken aback that he couldn't get past his opponent. It felt like all his hard work to push his vehicle mode to the max just didn't pay off when the race came to a close. The energy of Knockout pulsed with emotion and adrenaline from the speed, even after the loss. The two cars slid around and came to a stop right in the middle of the track, both drivers feeling pretty satisfied and a bit worn out. If Knockout could sweat through his skin, he totally would, just like Naruto, who let out a tired sigh from all the focus it took to win. For the first time in years, he really felt like he was up against something tough. Wow, that was something. I don't think anyone can keep up with me. I took a moment to appreciate the situation, grabbing my soda that was wedged in the carrier and sipping it to catch my breath. Knockout was getting over the surprise of losing a race. Despite his usual self-absorbed demeanor, he just smiled to himself, accepting this defeat for now. I'm definitely going to win next time, he promised, clearly stating that he would take the win in the next race. I can't wait for next time. I stepped out of my car and gave him a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. Here's my phone number. If you're up for another race, just give me a shout. The Decepticon couldn't believe the attitude of the human he had just taken down. At first glance, it looked like a solid hologram, but it was actually a protoform. This liquid metal shapes around a Cybertronian spark and keeps the genetic info needed for one of the transformation steps. Knockout's protoform shifted from his vehicle mode to a human form, opened the glass window, grabbed the paper, and quickly shut it again. Get ready, because next time it'll be you eating dust. Knockout sped up in no time and zoomed away, vanishing into the distance. He's such a strange guy, but you know what? He's really funny, I said, putting my hands on my hips. It's a chilly night out there. Perfect for some pizza, right? Decepticon vessel, you really took your time, huh? Hey, Knockout, I really don't like being kept waiting. Starscream exclaimed, taking in the view of the storm with a dramatic flair. Wow, it's been quite the journey. I have to admit, I got a bit sidetracked by something unexpected. Knockout kept the true reason for his late arrival to the Decepticons on Earth under wraps. Oh, and I had to look after my painting too. Starscream scrunched up his face in disgust at what the newcomer said. Oh, I totally forgot you were that kind of person. But seriously, why hasn't such a famous Decepticon picked up an airborne mode? Honestly, I think a car just fits my style better, it makes me feel more elegant. Knockout placed his hands on his hips, a hint of mockery lurking beneath the surface. So, can you let me know where my patient is? Starscream guided Knockout to the medical wing of the Decepticon warship, all while the other robots kept a close watch, united by their shared cause. As the automatic doors slid open, Knockout's eyes widened in shock at the sight of the legendary Megatron, looking utterly wrecked with a massive hole in his chest. Wow, can you believe Master Megatron is still alive? Knockout took just a second to analyze the medical condition of the legendary Decepticon leader, showing the results and offering ways to help fix the damage in your mind. So, it turns out that Grand Master Megatron has been in pretty rough shape for a while now. We figured it would be a good idea to bring in someone like you to help him out. Starscream put on quite the show, pretending to be all sad about Megatron's situation with an act that could win an Oscar. I've come across all sorts of injuries throughout the ages of war, but this one definitely looks fatal. Still, if Megatron is alive, I'll do everything I can to help him out. Knockout strolled over to a table featuring a holographic screen and started checking out the work the other Decepticon doctors had done to aid Megatron's recovery. Starscream turned away, trying to hide his disgust. Let's take a moment to pray to the Allspark for Megatron's comeback. He burst out of the medical bay, fuming and wishing that Megatron's death would finally give him the top spot in the Decepticons. I found myself in a museum, surrounded by lots of people and kids, all checking out the fascinating records of human history. For me, this wasn't needed since I've experienced so many different eras of civilization and seen a lot of amazing things up close. I took the chance to dive into the fascinating world of dinosaurs, those incredible creatures that once roamed our planet. I had my headphones on, jamming to some music while checking out the Triceratops skeleton that was on display for everyone to see. It must be super cool to see these guys in person. I'd do just about anything to see one alive, I quietly murmured while making my way to another section of the museum. I have to say, I totally lost track of time on this little adventure. The history of our planet is full of hidden curiosities and mysteries. You know what they say, there's always more than meets the eye. I checked the time on my phone and realized I had 2 hours left before the museum closed, so I thought I'd swing by the last few exhibits at the entrance. Less than Texty couldn't help but let out a sigh when I spotted the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the most well-known predator out there. It's definitely way more dangerous than those saber-toothed tigers I've had some not-so-great encounters with. You won't believe this. One time, a tiger actually tracked me down, thinking I'd make a tasty afternoon snack. I wasn't really paying attention that day, and before I knew it, I had a bite in my belly. Crazy, right? So, the tiger had a rough time because my blood is packed with energon, and he ended up dying from poisoning pretty quickly. But man, it still hurt like crazy. Hey, it would be really awesome to see you in action. I admitted that I was really caught up in the thought of maybe bringing dinosaurs to life with my abilities. It sounds like a blast, right? But then again, it might be a bit wild to actually create metal dinosaurs, or maybe not. Who knows, maybe in another life. Naruto, a guy's voice called out, causing him to startle for a second. As Naruto turned around, he spotted a familiar face and couldn't help but widen his eyes in surprise, momentarily losing his composure. Hey, Jack, I couldn't believe the coincidence and asked in disbelief. Hey, Naruto. Jack hurried over to Naruto, surprised to see the one who had rescued him from a Decepticon just a few weeks back. Wow, I can't believe you're actually here. Jack, what on earth are you doing here in Greece? I couldn't help but ask, still amazed by the coincidence. We're quite a distance from your home, aren't we? Hey, I'm the one asking here. You've been Mia like a ghost lately, and a lot has gone down these past few weeks. Jack was clearly thrilled to spot a familiar face once more. I'm just trying to escape the chaos in the USA, so please don't judge me for wanting a normal life. I really meant what I said. If there's one place I'd love to escape from, it's definitely the main stage of those alien battles. I can tell you look a bit more refreshed. You know, when you get a glimpse of the world on the brink of destruction, it can really make you rethink things a bit. Jack smiled, feeling confident. The way you speak makes it clear that you are involved in this war. I was really concerned for him because Jack is just an everyday guy and doesn't stand a chance in battle, especially against Cybertronians, who are all over 5 meters tall on average. Hey, aren't you in on this as well? Jack caught Naruto off guard with his question, causing him to tense up for a moment. Less than text. I let out a deep sigh and gave Jack a serious look. Honestly, I really don't want to get more involved than anyone else does. Wisdom comes with its own set of consequences, and it can really go both ways. Jack saw the sad look on Naruto's face and figured it was best not to push it. I can't judge you, everyone makes their own choices. You really saved my life, and I can't thank you enough for that. I couldn't help but chuckle when I thought about how Jack's scream was a bit off-key in that moment of panic when we were being chased the day we first met. Hey, so what brings you to Greece? Specifically. Jack gestured towards a golden orb held by a statue of Zeus. That orb is a Cybertronian relic, and I'm here to help the Autobots retrieve it before the Decepticons get their hands on it. Jack leaned in and whispered. So, it sounds like you're going all out like in those bank robbery flicks. I guess you're keeping track of where the cameras are, huh? I look at the golden orb and can't help but feel like I've seen it before. Hey, is this the Energon Harvester, by any chance? I'm kind of amazed by what I just said, and it's like this rush of old knowledge is zooming through my supercharged brain. Jack couldn't believe how quickly Naruto figured out what the artifact was, something that only Optimus Prime could pinpoint with complete confidence. What makes you think it's this artifact? Hey, those runes on the metal. They're from Cybertron, I said quickly, not entirely truthfully, noticing that there were some Cybertronian symbols tucked away in the golden metal that helped explain the artifact. Hold on, you can actually read Cybertronian. Jack was even more surprised, wondering how Naruto could understand something so complicated. I get all the different versions of languages out there, and honestly, picking up a language from another planet wouldn't be that tough. I thought back to all those years I spent picking up new languages and writing in every place I visited. I just can't wrap my head around the Cybertronian language, you know. Unlike Raph, who seems to get the hang of the basics without any trouble. Jack felt a twinge of jealousy creeping in. Wait, so the kid's hanging out with the Autobots as well. I really should have seen that coming. I headed toward the museum exit and saw that Jack was right behind me. Hey Naruto, the Decepticons are pretty dangerous. You really should come with me to the Autobot base. Jack made up his mind to stand firm, knowing just how perilous the Decepticons can be from his experiences and worrying about the safety of the one who rescued him. Hey Jack, no offense, but honestly, I really don't care about this war. It doesn't matter who wins or loses, the damage is already done. I grabbed my car key and hit the button to start my car, which caught Jack's eye and a few others nearby too. Jack took a glance at the wild-looking car that Naruto had, and while he was initially surprised, he quickly kept his cool as he watched Naruto hop into the driver's seat. Hey Naruto, hold on a second. I'm not really sure what you're up to or how you've got all this info, but I just want you to be aware that you're not safe right now. The Decepticons know who I am, so there's a chance they might come after you one day. I really appreciate you, but getting involved in this war, even just a little, could turn out to be pretty messy. I let out a tired sigh. History shows us that the natural order is all about balance. When one side tips the scale, the other side finds a way to counter it, often with even more force. It's kind of like the epic clash between Unicron and Primus in the universe's early days. I'm not quite getting it. Jack came to terms with the fact that he just couldn't sway Naruto's mind. Hey, good luck, it was really great catching up with you again. I glanced over at Jack, and oddly enough, a blue and red robot popped into my head, leaving me shaking my head in confusion. Hey, if you're thinking about taking the Energon Harvester, you might want to go ahead and activate the safety lock. It can soak up a ton of Energon, no matter what form it's in, but you've got to be careful, it's a pretty risky tool if you don't know what you're doing. Hey, what's up with the safety lock? Jack lifted an eyebrow, showing he was curious. Do you honestly believe that such a powerful object wouldn't come with a safety lock? I said that with a bit of sarcasm. So, the safety lock uses a voice command, 1986 G-1. Just a heads up, you really need to say it in Cybertronian. Otherwise, it's going to sound pretty silly. Naruto hopped into his car and took off, leaving Jack standing there, watching him disappear into the distance, heading who knows where. Jack was left with even more questions swirling in his mind, trying to figure out why Naruto was acting the way he was and who he really was. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.